Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Insta Good Show. I'm so glad to be with you today. I'm Seth, and today I've got some really shocking things to say to you. Shocking. Can't wait. So, first of all, I'm the host of the Seminary of Hard Knocks podcast. Love for you to check me out there. And also one of the fractional leaders at ChurchCom team, helping you with done for you church communications. Most of you probably already do that, but it'd be cool if you told your pastor. Anyway, today in the church communications group, and we're on the Insta Good Show, we're going to talk about some things about Instagram that really we all get really confused about. Honestly, there's a ton of confusion out there and about how Instagram actually works. The algorithm, or I like to call the algorithm Al, because we're on a first name basis. So Al is very confusing. He's a confusing entity. We're all very lost on how Al works. To be honest, we have these myths and these thoughts and just keep sharing them. And I want to share some myth busting truths about how the Instagram algorithm actually works for you to be able to game the system a little bit, even though that's pretty hard to do. So comment below, let me know. And I think I'm using Ecamm Live. So unless you give it permission, I can't see your name. So I'll do my best to respond to any comments, but tell me where you're watching from. But also I'd love for you to comment below and let me know any of the myths or things that you've heard, and we might get to it here at the end of the show, of how the algorithm actually works. Maybe you've heard something you just don't know if that's how it works, or if you've heard something and then learned that it did not work that way at all. That's one of the factors. We want to get to the bottom of it today. And as we go through this stuff, you're going to see. So first of all, I want to let you know that I am using a blog that I got from later.com. I'll show you that right now. Let's see. It's right here. This is how the Instagram algorithm works in 2020. So I'm sharing some content from this blog that I'll link to in the bottom of the show notes when we're done here in the comment section. And podcasting like has show notes. So it's the show notes. And this is a really informative article that I encourage you to read. So I'm just going to hit the highlights of it here. And I'm going to share a infographic from this later that you're going to want to get, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes comment section as well. So that's where all this is coming from, just so that you know, I'm not just over here like guruing and making this stuff up, and just to try to get people to tune in and watch, etc., whatever. But I do want to let you know that there's some truth to this. It is backed up, and science has pretty much spoken. So here we go. I want to talk about the let's see. Here we go. All right. So let's get to the algorithm. The algorithm is an interesting beast. And like I said, there's been a lot of conversation about how this really works. I'm going to give you 6 key factors. This comes from that later blog I shared that they got from Instagram themselves. Okay. So Instagram has gone on record to say the following things that I'm going to share with you. First, I want to go to this infographic that I talked about. Let's look at that really quick, and you can see kind of what they have debunked. And we're going to cover this really quick. Hey, Cheryl, I'm glad you just started using Instagram. That's awesome. I think it's going to be the platform for social media in the future, because Facebook is so ridiculous. But Instagram is getting crowded. So, but it's like it's one of the best ways to reach people. Especially your younger crowd. And by younger, I mean like 40s and below. That's like 40s to 20s. It's a big window now. Just kind of like I've noticed also, there's been some older folks showing up, like my age, older folks showing up on TikTok. What's up? Okay. All right. So let's look at this. The facts. All right. Comments, likes, and shares and views, they impact your feed ranking. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Photos and videos are equal. How many people's mind just exploded? Photos and videos are equal. They're friends. Oh my gosh, that's insane. We're going to get to that. All right, moving on. Always changing is based on user trends. The algorithm is always in motion. So just when you think you got it figured out, you got to figure it out again. Fake interactions don't count. We're going to talk about that. Comment links of all sorts count as engagement. That's a big one too. That's a big deal. All account types are equal. So business and personal and creator, they don't punish you, penalize you, nothing. They're all the same. And the first 30 minutes does not determine ranking. Ooh, that's a hard one to swallow, but we're going to get to that. So I will make that infographic available to you later on as we go forward after the show's over. So let's get into some of these things that we learned, some a little bit more detailed versions of this. There are 6 key factors that impact your ranking that the algorithm is taking into consideration with your Instagram posts. So we're going to go through these one by one. Here we go. A lot of information coming up, so get ready. Let's do it. First of all, interest. Interest is an interesting term, and the way they define this interest, this first of 6 key factors, is comments, likes, and reshares. Who saw that coming? Interest. Obviously, when people click and watch and video views is part of that. Obviously, when people are interacting with your content, that tells the algorithm, this is good stuff. Show it more. And that's just a general rule. Facebook works that way. YouTube works that way. They all kind of have that factor. We should know that. That's an easy one, right? But what we don't understand sometimes is that it's the relationship gauging that Instagram is actually taking into account. Your interactions everywhere on the app actually count. So your DMs, who you tag, who you comment on their photos, who you actually just stop and look at their photo. There's a timer running, remember? It's factoring all of that in that contribute to putting someone else in what's called your friends and family grouping. The algorithm is looking to see who your friends and family are. And the more time you spend interacting with people or they spend interacting with you, then the more you're going to see their stuff. They're going to see yours. Now, quick example of this. Recently, I had a conversation with a guy named Michael Lukaszewski. He runs Church Fuel, great guy, good friend of mine. And, but we don't talk a ton on social media. We kind of are just there, we like hanging out and stuff, but it's just, whatever. We had a conversation recently on one of my Instagram posts, and now I see everything that he does. And he's seeing my stuff, and I'm seeing him tracking my stories. It's really I've had a lot of interaction with this one account, which is him. And now I'm seeing more of his stuff. He's seeing more of mine. So taking the interest into mind is a big part of the algorithm. So think about that when you're making content. Think about how you're creating content that creates interest or creates this kind of conversation, because that is what allows it to be shared with more people. Okay. So anyway, here we go. 6 key factors. I'm moving on. Relationship. That's kind of what we're getting into now. So let's look at the relationship part. Relationships is the second of the interactions. Who you tag, who you DM, all that stuff I just said is relationship. A smooth pattern of consistency here, of good content, consistently good content is what gets rewarded. So it's not just the interaction, because the interaction is actually driven by making good content. Right? If you just post stuff that nobody cares about over and over, that's one of the myths, is that if we post every day, our engagement will go up. No, engagement goes up because your engagement goes up. I know it's science and it blows my mind. There's people taking different colored beakers of liquids and pouring them into each other to create this truth somewhere, right? It's that the consistently good content that gets engagement is what gets rewarded. So if you post every single day and it's stuff nobody cares about, then no one's going to see it. You get 1 or 2 likes, it's just not going to really hit home with anybody. So consistency matters, but really it's consistently good content gets rewarded because it shows that relationship. Who you're in relationship with determines a lot. So this, first we had interest, now we have relationships. That's a huge part of how the algorithm determines who you should see and who they should see. Oh, somebody hashtag truth bomb. Yes. Love that. Okay. I can't see who it was. So whoever you were, thank you. That's really, really cool. Let's look at number 3, which is timeliness. Timeliness. Okay, I'm going to move this down just a touch. Here we go. This is better. Timeliness. Now, what we mean by timeliness is when was the content posted? Lots of you probably remember when the first real big Instagram algorithm changed. Was it Christmas, maybe last year, the year before? And suddenly you were seeing posts from Christmas and it was New Year's. And you're like, why am I seeing this? This is already passed. I don't want this. Everybody was kind of outraged about it. It was ridiculous. And so we all thought, what was going on? Well, that was a glitch. There's a problem with the algorithm. And they included this now in the algorithm, learning from the audience what we want to see. We don't want to see old stuff. So Instagram has a tendency to want to show to your audience something that is new, fresh. And once it's been a couple of days old, a day old, it's probably not going to show it to you. Now, if you're super connected with someone, like we said, their relationships and the interest level is high on a piece of content, it'll still keep popping up in people's timelines. But probably people that just haven't seen it yet, because they may not notice, but after about 3-4 days, that content's probably not going to show up anymore because it's not timely. And especially if it hasn't gotten a lot of traction. Now, if it goes viral, that's kind of the definition of viral, is it defies all that, right? Is that it goes viral, people see it, it's nuts, and all this doesn't really matter because people like it so much that it says, forget your algorithm, Al, go take a nap and we'll just have fun out here with this content. So timeliness is super important. Think about what they're doing in their day when you post as well, because Instagram does try to show new things. So when you post matters kind of during the day. So I'm thinking things like, if you're a church and you want people to interact with a post, don't post it at night, because then you don't have all the hours of the day when of when people are actually looking at Instagram. I like to post things around noon. And this shows at noon because people are eating lunch. They can watch while they're eating lunch. And your people are probably doing the same thing. Think about the course of the day for your people. When are they dropping off the kids? When are they picking kids up from school? When are they having dinner? When are they doing extracurricular activities? Student ministry. You don't want to post things during that 3 to 5 time. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you do, but because they're doing extracurricular sports and they don't have their phones, and so they're not going to see it, so there's those kind of things you have to factor those in. I'm not saying that's for everyone, but just say you got to factor that kind of stuff in because timeliness is a part of it. If you want people to sign up on a post all day, you do have an announcement post you want people to interact with and click something and sign up. Don't put it late at night when everybody's gone to bed, and husbands and wives can't talk about whether or not they should sign up for this thing. So timeliness is important. According to Later, the best time for most posts is between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern. That's a pro tip. Doesn't mean that that's going to work for you. And if you post then and you don't get anything, you're like, hey, this isn't right. Your audience is your audience. You need to know them. And if you don't know what their rhythms are, you don't know when your look at your own posts. When you post at certain times, which ones do better? Post at those times. Think about what kind of content you're posting in those. I'm just going deep dive on timeliness here, but just think about that for your particular audience. How is it being interacted with? And just make note of those benchmarks. It's super helpful. All right, so that's timeliness. Let's look at the next one, which is frequency. All right, I said earlier, posting every single day doesn't really affect. Well, it does. It does affect. I'm going to say it didn't affect, but it doesn't affect it like you think. Posting terrible content all day long is just you posting terrible content, and people don't like that, so they're not going to interact with it. Posting good content frequently is good. If you can post once a week, 3 times a week, 6 times a week, whatever you're doing, here's the hack on frequency. Keep doing it because Instagram's algorithm is taking into consideration how often your rhythm is. So really this one should have been called rhythm. Frequency is rhythm. Here's a weird hack. Here's how this works. If you open the app a lot as a user and scroll a lot, Instagram actually serves you more chronological content. Did you know that? If you're seeing a lot of it, it's like, oh, they saw it. Cool, they saw it. Now we can show the rest of it. So you're consuming enough of it to even out the pool of followers that you follow, that they can kind of show you more stuff that's in between those gaps. If you don't open up the Instagram account, your Instagram account, and don't scroll a lot, when you do open it, what's going to happen is they're going to show you highlights. They're going to say, you've missed a ton of stuff that's gone on since you last were here. Here's what we think you might want. And then it's kind of a guessing game for the, because again, we're talking about a robot here. They don't know you as well. They know you pretty well, but they don't know you as well as as you probably would want them to, in this position, to show you stuff that you read your mind. They can't read your mind. So the frequency hack here is the rhythm that you open up the app is affecting what you see. Now, conversely, if I can use a medical term, is that the more you post, or the rhythm which you post, determines kind of how it's being shown. So if you're posting 3 times a week, it's going to put that into the factor of the algorithm to show to your people on a certain kind of timetable. And it's always in motion, so you can't really say what it's really doing. Which is why I always say, if you can post once a day, that's a healthy metric. It's a healthy metric. When I was a communication director, I tried to post Monday through Friday, every day, once on Instagram's feed. I tried to do stories at least twice a week, usually on Wednesdays and on Sundays. And then we tried to do something on Sunday as well. Saturday kind of was an iffy thing. So we tried to do that. If you miss a couple of days in there, it doesn't super affect it. But if you post for 7 days straight and then don't post again for another 20 days, and then post 3 days, and then don't post again for another 15 days, and do random patterns, Instagram has no idea what to do with you. That's the problem. And so if you want people to start seeing your stuff on a regular basis, you've got to get regular. That sounds gross. Okay, moving on to following. Whew, we're blazing through these. I know. Again, I'm going to post the article. Go look at it, and you can get all the details of this. So let's look at following. The Instagram is watching you. Al is aware of who you're following. And that sounds really creepy. So for those of you who say, in my church, we don't follow our people. We just follow our staff, and we just follow our elders or whatever. This factor is where doing that is working against you. The more people that you follow, the more people Instagram has to figure out and work with in the data. And so if you follow people that go to your church, then you're naturally, again, more science, you're naturally going to see more of their content to be able to interact with them, which then is going to show your content to them if they interact with you more. And that's what we all want, isn't it? More interaction. So follow your people. That's the rule here, because they're taking into consideration these connections. Again, if they're following you and you're not following them, then you won't see their stuff. If you're following them, they're not following you, vice versa. So who you're following is taken into quite a consideration. A stronger connection, as far as that who is in my friends and family, is if I'm following you and you're following me. And Instagram sees that as, this is not just a fan of an organization or an organization trying to market. It is friends that know each other. And that's kind of the way that works. So think about that when you're in your strategy of Instagram, who you're, whether you follow people or not. I think you should. If you follow somebody that's toxic, obviously you got to deal with that, but try to know your people if you can. Most churches are small enough, you know who you're following, you know your people. If you're a big church, it gets a little tougher, but I'd like to err on the side of having more followers that I don't know really that might go to our church than, just being really stingy with it because of this very factor. It might open up a relationship with someone in our Instagram account DMs eventually. So I like to keep that open and deal with the problems, which are usually few as they come. Anyway, number 6, last one, usage. It's kind of the same principle. If you use the app a lot, you get the deep cut material. If you use the app a little bit or you post a little bit, then you just get the highlights. And so that's a factor in what they're showing you or showing your people on Instagram. Usage. So that's the 6. We're going to go through them again really quick. Here we go. First, it's interest, relationships, timeliness, frequency, following, and usage. All right. This concludes my TED Talk. All right. So those are the 6 factors that the algorithm is taking into account when it's trying to decide who sees what on Instagram. I'll give you that infographic at the end here, but before we go, I want to do a spotlight on one. I hope that was helpful. If it was, great. I love it. Like, just hit a like or something. That'd be cool. If you have questions, I'd love to hear them. Put them in the comments, and even if I can't see them here in Ecamm, I'll go back into this after it posts and gets set up and stuff, and I'll answer some of those as best I can, or at least point you to people that know. I don't know everything, but I'll point you to people that know, and I'll put these links in the show notes of this show as well. All right, so I want to do a spotlight really quick. I want to talk, or I just want to show you a post was done on Instagram by a church that I thought was really great. Let's break it down. Let's talk about why it's great. And it's from Church of the Highlands. I know it's a big church. They have a great team. They do really great stuff. But I want to break down like why this is good and see if there's some principles here we can gather and see how even some of this in this algorithm talk factors in to what we're seeing. So let's take a look. And away we go. That's not it. It's this one. Here we go. Church of the Highlands. All right. I love Church of the Highland. These guys just, man, their social is so good. That's Katie Vogel. Katie does a great job. She leads that team. I think there's somebody new running social and she's awesome as well. I don't know her name, but let's take a look at this really quick. Now, this is a screenshot, so we can't scroll through, but let's take a look at what is happening in this photo and what are they trying to get you to do. Thinking about all the stuff we just discussed in the algorithm talk, how does this play in? First of all, this is a really well done photo. There are people in it and they clearly like each other. That's always attractive when people seem to be having a good time. Now, if you scroll through these photos, these are several photos of different families sitting on the same park bench. There's a couple that has a dog and no kids. There's a couple that has a bunch of kids and they're way out of control. And there's a couple that have like some adopted kids in there. You can tell they're just different mixed race families. Lots of great stuff to show the diversity of family and marriage. And their caption gives the context for the photo. Every marriage is unique. Whether you're newly engaged, juggling your kids' schedules together, or celebrating 30 years, we know God has incredible things in store for your marriage. We can't wait to invest in relationships together at the marriage conference. This is an ad. This is about doing something. Visit the link in our bio, not here, because you can't click anything here. Smart. For details and to reserve your seats today. And then there's the hashtag MarriageConf20. That's brilliant. You think it takes into consideration all these, like who's connected, and obviously a lot of people like this. It got a lot of play on the algorithm. But what's good about this post is they don't try to hit you with everything in the image. And it's a great image. It is, and I picked this one just because it's the sweetest one. Come on, it's sweet. But this is a great photo that shows a loving marriage. This is a demographic photo too. This is probably really in line with their demographic. This is a younger couple. They don't have kids, but there's others that do, and they hit them all. But then they let the caption give the context. I know that I do a lot of text on graphics too, and I'm trying to stop. I'm just not a good photographer, so I understand the struggle. I use Canva a lot, and that helps, and that gives you good design ideas. But really, Instagram is about photos, imagery, pictures, stories with pictures. And this picture tells a story. It is a great way to market something. Instead of talking about the thing, talk about what the thing is about that they would want to come and get, and then say, here's how to come get that. It's a slight twist in your marketing strategy when you're talking about Instagram that I think many churches should adopt. This is a great method for getting your people. And if you do a video, it's like, talk about why it's great. Talk about your men's conference, why it's great, your women's conference, your marriage conference. Talk about your Sunday school class. Talk about your sermon series that you have coming up. Don't just share the graphic. Share a photo. If you're doing a sermon series about teenagers, share a photo that looks really good like this of teenagers being teenagers. And then in the caption, say, we love teenagers at our church and we're doing a new series. Can't wait to, something like that. Give them the context in the photo, or give them the imagery in the photo and the context in the caption. I love that, because what that does is it plays right into the algorithm stuff, because Here's your connections. I might know these people. These are people at my church. I might know them. And if I do know them, one thing I would say they should do, and I don't know if they did in the picture, is if they know who these people are, tag them in the photo, and then they can see it, and then they can share it. And so if I saw somebody in this photo I knew, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's tag John Smith, hey, John Smith, you guys look great. And he'd be like, hey, cool. And then he's sharing it. And now we're connecting with the people in the church because it's just a photo. It's just a photo. So amazing what a photo can do on Instagram. It is a great way to connect with an audience emotionally and allow your audience to kind of feel something about this situation and then go, what is this about? And then they read the caption and it gives the context and the call to action and tells them what you need them to do. So if you're going to do an advertisement post, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it on Instagram. It is a great way to get people talking about your event instead of getting information about it. That's what a website's for. So anyway, I know I can harp on that all day. Anyway, I hope this has been really helpful. Again, every Thursday we're going to be here around noon, 12:15ish. And Marcy's here, Janine's here. Hey guys, so glad you're watching. Again, in the comments, give me a shout out. Let me know where you're watching from, or I'd love to hear some myths that you've heard about the Instagram algorithm and how it works, and whether or not you have questions, or whether or not you've just heard it and want to know, or that you've heard something and found out this isn't true. And if I've said something, you're like, I don't think that's true. Let's talk about it. I love arguing. It's so fun. I'm kidding. I really don't, but I'm willing to talk about it. Let's talk about some of this stuff because, again, at the end of the day, we are trying to master a platform that we don't own, that does not care if we are, getting our engagement together, or what they're just kind of setting the parameters, and it's a Wild West. And I think it's one of the last big platforms where you really can get some spread of who you're reaching. Hey, what's up, Bo? How's it going, man? And I think that we've got to start looking at Instagram if we're going to reach that demographic of people and really getting serious about, and I'll just say this too. This is another freebie, pet peeve, but pro tip. Don't look at what really other churches are doing. Look at what some of your most successful brands are doing on Instagram. And I know that may be counterintuitive for a lot of us. Like, look at what Nike is doing. Look at what, I don't know, pick one. What's your favorite? Adidas. I don't know. I'm on shoes now. K-Swiss. You may wear K-Swiss. I don't know. Pick a brand that you just love on Instagram. Look at what Jasmine Star is doing on Instagram, and Alex Tooby. She will tell you all about Instagram. Find out what these people are doing to game this algorithm. Did I just say the Instagram? Maybe I did. It was a joke. Find out what these people are doing and try to learn from them. Churches tend to have this kind of bubble around what we do. Some of it works, some of it doesn't, but we're unique. We're very unique. And so we have to keep our side of things, what our content is there. But as far as how we're doing the platform, learn from the ones that are spending millions of dollars to do it well, teams of people to do it well, and try to pick up the principles that they're applying there that actually makes the platform work for you. Because Instagram only works for you if you know how to make it work for you. So I would say go find a brand that you really like on Instagram and start trying to see what they're doing and learn from them. Look at influencers. Bo says, look at influencers are scrapping part-time and come up with amazing low-cost ideas. So true. So true. There's a local influencer I follow here in Frisco who has branded herself as the number one influencer in Frisco. Her name's Bree Shell. And honestly, I'm kind of like, a lot of times with influencer, I'm like, I don't understand why this is exciting, but dude, lots of followers she didn't buy. She actually was the social media director for a big church here in town. And I think still is. So there's all kinds of people out there in your areas. check your hashtags for your city, and you can find people that are doing this really well and learn what they do. You'll notice that they're not spending a ton of time on like fancy design graphics. They're doing video, they're doing raw footage, they're doing selfie video stuff or selfie photo stuff, and they're doing high-end photography. Those kinds of things are going. Watch what they're doing, because that's what gets people on Instagram engaged. And that's what will make you Insta-good at Instagram. And with that, we got to be out. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Oh, dude, Alejandro's here too. What's up, man? There's a question really quick. I want to make sure. What about stories algorithm? Works the same way. It's the same exact deal. The whole ecosystem of stories and feed and DMs all works the same way and contributes to these factors. And so if you could do the news feed or stories, which one would you concentrate on? Man, stories. I would concentrate on stories. Insta-cute. Thanks, man. If I could focus on one, I would definitely focus on stories. And I know it seems weird because they disappear, and after 24 hours you're like, well, why did I do all that work? Because stories, there's not as many people doing stories as the feed, but that's starting to even out. And so I think it's just one of those places where you can do more with stories, to be honest. You can tag more with stories. You can do GIFs with stories. You can do the create mode. Now you can download your own filters and keep them in your little bank at the bottom to use it over and over. The filters are better. There's hashtags, there's @ symbols, there's just so many things you can do with stories that you can't do with feed. It's just so much more interesting and easy to make, to be honest. The feed is where I would say, if you're going to do that, I think you need to do both, to be honest. But if you had to concentrate, I'd go with stories. And maybe once a week, twice, three times a week, post a really nice photo with the context, like we saw from Church of the Highlands on your feed. And that way, because they both affect each other. So you kind of have to do both. But establish a rhythm that works for you and keep that rhythm. And that's what's going to help you with your audience the most. Okay, so any other content, any other questions on Instagram, hit me up in this, what do you call that, comment section, and I'd be happy to talk further as we go, but I got to wrap it up. I'm already hit 30 minutes. That's way over my time limit. Instagram is supposed to be for people with no attention span. So anyway, I got to run, but thank you guys so much for paying attention and listening, and I love you. Hope you're doing Instagram, Insta good, and I'll see you around the Instagram. See ya.